If your team got guaranteed money, tell them call me.
Whoop. Make me say, my.
I done been around the world. Yeah, I was made for this.
Player Performance with J.A. Cavalier.
All right, college football, week one, usually more questions than answers. A couple of those questions are going to be answered here today. Is Clemson back? Is Georgia still the big dogs in college football? Then we move over to Golden Domers, now their second year in a row with a star transfer at quarterback. Riley Leonard coming over, playing with some new toys. Well, Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher out. Now will one of the best recruiting classes of all time actually live and play up to the hype? All those five-star recruits over at Texas A&M. And then the Battle of Florida, which started off as a three-legged race. Florida State got castrated in week 0. So now there's down to 2. We're going to answer those questions. Player performance, college football, week 1. Do us a favor. Go ahead, smash that like button. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel. I am your favorite capper's favorite capper. I'm J.A. Cavalier, joined by Lance Taylor. Lance Taylor, Birmingham, Alabama. Most of you Southern boys know Lance from The Next Round and host for a long time on WJOX. Lance, what's going on, big guy?
J.A., always fun, man. So excited about college football. Week 0, 4 games, 4 dogs. We had a massive upset with Georgia Tech knocking off Florida State. So hopefully week 1 can live up to what we saw with week 0. And I see over your left shoulder, I know the Florida love. I see the Gators. I see Florida State. We've already got an 0-1. We will see.
If I had the camera in my hand, I'd be able to go up a little bit higher. Of course, the U is represented over here, big time over here in South Florida. So I have one question before we really start, and I guess we'll dive into this because you said upset. Was it? I mean, Georgia Tech, the Ramblin' Wreck, finished strong last year. Is that offense just better than everybody anticipated? Is it the fact that the quarterback mismanagement while he was at A&M and now transfers over and starts playing up to his potential, right?
Yeah, look, I think Haynes King's a really good quarterback. I mean, 37 touchdowns last year. They go from in 2022. And by the way, right here at YLose, we gave you a free play on Georgia Tech, a 10-point dog, winning the game outright over in Dublin. Haynes King, 37 total touchdowns last year. From 2022, they averaged 17 points per game to over 30 points per game last year. So I thought the offense would be improved. The thing I worried about, J.A., was Florida State coming out based on they were so pissed off that they got snubbed, or at least believed they were snubbed, going undefeated, winning the ACC and not getting into a college football playoff. I thought they might come out with a chip on their shoulder. That's the only thing that scared me. When they went down, got up 7-0, I was like, holy hell, here we go. This could be a long day. Georgia Tech goes right down. And the craziest thing about that game, in the NFL, you average about 11 possessions per game. Both Florida State and Georgia Tech only had 7 possessions, which was insane. I thought Florida State not nearly as dominant up front on the offensive line or the defensive line. You look at Jamal Haynes and Haynes King, that combination was a lot against Florida State. And it was just a hell of a game. But I agree with you. I think Brent Key has got Georgia Tech in year 3, the way they played in the second half of last season, and obviously playing with a lot of confidence right now.
Correct. And I'll be the first to say, now I did have State. I had a smaller play on State. I just thought there was a huge talent gap, more so on the defensive line than anything else. I thought they were going to be able to stuff them at the line and get home at quarterback. But my biggest play, my first max bet of the college football season did cash. I was actually on the under in that game. So, of course, I was screaming, kick the field goal, kick the field goal. And, of course, they did with pretty much a walk-off win in Dublin. But anyway, we're going to get you guys set up here for college football week 1. And we're going to start here on Friday night, TCU Stanford. The Horned Frogs coming in laying 10. The total here is at 60. Now, the only place where Stanford really scores is SAT scores, right? And the Cardinals' offense is just, quite honestly, offensive. Stanford averaged 20 points a game last year. the only team in the country to lose every home game. Now, Lance, is that going to change in this one, or do you like TCU?
It's interesting, Jay. You look at Troy Taylor coming into year two, and this is a former guy that played quarterback in the NFL, bounced around, played for the Jets for a little bit. He's in year two. He returned 77% of his defense production, 98% of the offensive production. You go back and watch what was a crap product last year in Stanford. And it's hard to believe. You go back 11 years ago, this team would have been in a 14 playoff.
Well, the worst thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the worst thing about it is they keep recruiting talent at the quarterback position. I mean, you look at Florida now benefiting off of it. There's Stanford quarterbacks littered throughout the NFL. They just can't put it together in the Pac-12, which is crazy to think. You're talking about one of the weakest conferences when it comes to defense in all of college football.
Well, you just go back 4 short years ago when we were in the 2020 COVID season, when the SEC played 10 conference games. In the first game for Mike Leach in Mississippi State, they were playing defending champions LSU. And KJ Costello, a former Stanford transfer, went 525 on that defense. So you're right. They still have – and quarterback Ashton Daniels isn't bad. The problem is you go back last year and you watch Troy Taylor. He had to do so much gimmicky stuff, so many trick plays just to try to get the offense going. The offense wasn't just the problem. The defense was 130th last year. You mentioned
they were brutal on both sides of the ball.
You mentioned the fact they've lost 9 consecutive home games. They're 3-10 against the number. Their last 13 out at home we used to call it the farm. That was a tough place to play, and now it's just a crap product. I don't know what you get from TCU. We go back to year one, Sonny Dykes 2 years ago, where they just kind of flipped college football upside down. There was no expectation. You lose your starting quarterback in Chandler Morris. You bring in Max Duggan. They go to play not only in the college football playoff, they play for a national championship. And last year was obviously a down year for TCU. Now you bring in the former Boise State head coach. He was the defense coordinator at Oregon, and Andy YLose, to take over this defense. I just don't know. They've won. They've covered and won 7 straight openers on the road. I just don't know what you're getting from TCU. 9.5. That's kind of a healthy number. The total's sitting at 59.5. I think you've got more of a play on this than I do. This is kind of a coin flip to me because I don't know how. I always expect, J.A., for coaches, good coaches, and Troy Taylor had a lot of success at Sacramento State, winning 13 games in his final year there. I always look for the progression from year 1 to year 2. So I do think Stanford's going to be better, but how much better, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but the bottom line is they can't be any worse.
They cannot be worse.
I mean, you just from a number standpoint, right? 3-10 against the spread their last 13 at home. 5-13 against the spread their last 18 overall. Now, I get it. TCU coming off a down year were just 5-13 against the spread. TCU was 5-7 last year overall, right? But they lost a couple really close games. And those games were to teams like Texas and teams like Texas Tech. So respectable losses. They weren't bad losses. And TCU has covered the spread in each of its last 7 road openers. I'm not in love with laying the 10, obviously not with this Horned Frog team, not knowing exactly what they come into the season with, but I would definitely lean TCU in this spot.
Definitely have more talent. I will give you that 100%. And this could be one of those surprises. We look at the Big 12 right now, and I think there's 5 or 6 teams that I look at that could win this, get the automatic bid into the 12-team college football playoff. Nobody's talking about TCU based on the down year last year. So this could be one of those surprise teams. It's kind of a fascinating game. I'll lean on you for this. The thing that scares me, 85% of the public is on TCU. You know as well as I do, that's a scary number.
Well, no, that's actually what, that's a number that actually makes this not a play for me, is the fact that this line has ticked down a little bit and the public has 85% on it. So that's actually what would scare me off. And that's why this would be more of a lean than an actual play, because you do know I'm heavy into the lines. I am a spot player. I am a numbers player. I am a money movement type guy. But what I do look at is Stanford failed to cover it in each of the last 6 home games against non-conference opponents. And that's what really sticks out to me in this game. I have to lean TCU. And I do think that the Frogs can get it done. We'll see. I definitely want no part of Stanford. I don't really want any part of the total here. It's actually a really high number considering the two teams that are going to be on the field. But like I said, I do lean TCU in this spot.
Yeah, and the fun thing, I hate playing shitty teams, to be honest with you. And I know when I first started out capping, I seemed to be on these teams that were catching around 10 points, and you just hope to be around in the fourth quarter. And
well, you just want to sneak in that. You want to sneak in the proverbial back door, right?
Backdoor cover, yeah. And I really just don't want to play teams like that. Right? I would rather pass on a crap team like that.
Moving on to what's probably the biggest game of the week. We have number 14, the Clemson Tigers, and number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs. Stick 'em. Now, I know you're Bama. You Tide got them last year, right? Georgia came out pissed off in the Orange Bowl. I was actually live at that game. I was in a Hard Rock suite with the people at Hard Rock watching that game. I actually bet Georgia's team total in that game for big numbers, and they covered that pretty much by halftime. UGA comes into this game laying 13.5. The total is now at 48.5. The total opened up at 50. It's fallen off big time. I actually co-sign with the movement, and I am going to hammer the under in this game. I'll actually give you guys a little bit of some details of why. But first, Lance, who are you on in the biggest game of week 1 and something that really can set the tone for the rest of the college football season?
Yeah, I think you and I might kind of line up on this one. I mean, this total is ticked down to 48.5, and I do think it's going to be 2 top 5 defenses. For whatever reason, Clemson hadn't been able to get their skill right. Since the last time they won a national championship in 2018, they haven't had, the Deshaun Watson, the Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Cade Klubnik is a guy that's got a lot of experience. Losing Will Shipley, I think, is going to hurt that offense. The defense is going to be legitimate. I think it will be by far the best defense that you will see in the ACC. And Georgia does have to replace, when you look at their 2 top rushers, you look at Ladd McConkey, you look at Brock Bowers. I mean, those are major weapons. Now, I trust that Kirby Smart can come in and just reload these guys. The last time these two matched up, 2021, that awful 10-3 game. But I kind of like it I don't want it to play out. It's not going to play out 10-3, which flew under the total. But I like the under 48.5 because I don't think Georgia has identified their playmakers yet. And I just don't trust Cade Klubnik. I think we might see 2 quarterbacks in this game for Clemson. I don't think Dabo Swinney really knows what he's got here outside of a really good defense. So I think they're going to try to slow it down. I think Georgia will fill them out. And I think this thing goes under the 48.5.
Yeah, and you and I had actually talked about this, and I told you this, and I'll say it again now. Of all 4 teams that'll be on the field, all 4 units that'll be on the field, I trust Smart and I trust that Georgia defense more than I trust anything else, right? Georgia doesn't rebuild, they reload. Doesn't matter how many guys end up in the NFL year in and year out. That defense is always going to be there. Both defenses actually project as top 5 in 24. Clemson returns, 8 starters, ranked top 10 in yards allowed last year. They gave up 21 per game. They returned 2 of maybe what's the best defensive backs in the nation, and they're going to need them because the rest of that secondary has been decimated. Georgia's defense, we all know the story there, right? 5th fewest points allowed in college football last year, allowing just 15 points a game. 4 of their final 6 games have gone under the posted total. 77% of the money is coming in on the over, and this number is still dipping. And I don't think it's done falling just yet. I don't think this number is going to land now at 48.5. I still think there's going to be downward movement. So if you're going to get in on this one, I'd suggest doing so rather quickly. Look, you know the story, right? Fade the public, trust the experts. I already have a ticket on the under in this game. I suggest you guys do the same.
Yeah, and you know this. I mean, 48.5 is a pretty low total when you talk about college football. And I kind of agree with you. I think this thing could settle in at like 46.5 by kick at 12 noon Eastern time on ABC. I'm going to throw a trivia question at you, Jay, and you tell me if you can answer this. There are only 3 active coaches in the FBS that have won national championships this year going into the season. It's the fewest number we've had since 1942. Can you give me the 3 active coaches in the FBS that have national championships?
Well, obviously Smart, right?
Right.
Actually, both coaches in this game.
Very good. Dabo and Smart. Yeah.
So who would be the third? And I'm going to assume it's a head coach who's now coaching somewhere else.
That's very good. I can give you another hint if you want it, but you are right.
No. Just give me a second. Give me a second, because I'm sure as I go down the line, I'll definitely figure this one out. Rich Rod never won.
As you think this out, Saban, Smart, and Dabo basically just rotated national championships for a decade plus. So
well, I mean, you have to throw in the big Gox over there in Louisiana for one, right? And maybe the best college football team of our decade, that LSU squad. But now you got me. And
if you don't get this, you're going to be like, oh, damn, I knew that.
You know what? I know as soon as the second you tell me, I'm going to be like, I know that. But you know what? Just for time, safety here, who is it?
I'll just give you a hint, though. As we record this right now, they are playing tonight. It's one of the, if we want to say,
Mac.
What's that?
It has to be Mac, right?
It is Mac Brown. Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
You know, I didn't even think about, Mac is so fucking old that he doesn't even come to thought when you talk about college football coaches. Like sometimes I even forget that the dude's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so like 20 years ago, I was doing business with a huge North Carolina booster. And I'm talking about a guy, who gave millions to the university. And his best friend was Mac. You know what I mean? So he was talking about him 20 years ago. And now I'm looking at the landscape. I forget that this guy's back in the Carolina Blue, so, roaming the sidelines. I don't know how they wake him up for every game.
Yeah, I don't know. He is the oldest active coach, too, by the way, 73 years old. And, Nick Saban and Mac Brown were the same age, but Nick Saban just always seemed so much younger. And I guess
I don't know if Nick Saban seems younger or if Mac Brown just seems older.
That's fair. But yes, you got them all. So there you go. Dabo, Kirby Smart, Mac Brown, your 3 active coaches.
No. Yeah, we kind of cheated a little bit on that one. Okay, guys. So I'm going to talk about a little special that I'm going to do for you guys. And you guys are going to have to hit the comments for this. From this moment to the end of the show, I want you guys to pick over or under how many times we mention the transfer portal. So whether we say portal or transfer portal, just pick over, under, and that line is going to be set now at 5. Now, we still have 9 games to go, so I'm cheating here a little bit and telling you guys about how many games we have left to break down here. But over or under 5, either Lance or myself will mention the word portal or transfer portal. You pick how many times, you pick whether over or under. Anybody with the right number, we're going to pick 3 to 5 guys for a $25 Amazon gift card. If anyone puts in the bonus number of how many times we say it, exact number of times we say it, and you get that right, you will enter to win a $100 Amazon gift card.
I like it.
A little bit of love for the community.
Well, I will tell you, doing this for a living, I do a daily show for 3 hours every single day. And the transfer portal has become, I don't know if I want to call it a gift, but, we used to have this kind of off season in college football. And now with the portal, it's just another level. If I was a really successful coach, have I said it too many times?
Look, you already said it twice, and we haven't even hit the next game yet.
Okay, I'll back off. Anyway, my point was going to be, it's a different animal in itself. I can't even keep up with it sometimes.
All right, so guys, reset. We're now setting that number at 7.
Okay,
all right?
7.
We're going to set it at 7 because we haven't even hit the next game, and Lance already dropped 2 portals.
I know.
Those are like fucking F-bombs. Well, especially if you ask Dabo, right? The portal is a F-bomb. if you ask Dabo.
Dabo is I don't know. I'm not a big Dabo guy.
I'm not a big Dabo guy either, but you have to respect what he's done at Clemson,
No
where he's taken the program. And look, you know what? I'm going to say this. I make a lot of money off of betting college football, but when it comes to college football, the guy's a lot fucking smarter than I am, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's got multiple national championships.
How do you argue that?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so moving on. Penn State, West Virginia. The Lions are laying 7.5, total at 51.5. Penn State 7.5. I know who I like in this game, and I actually like him quite a bit. Now, the Nittany Lions averaged 36 points per game last year. Is that going to go up or down? They return quarterback Drew Aller. Also, two running backs who combined for over 1,600 yards last year. Penn State did hammer the Mountaineers last year in a game that was a little fishy, and I'm not going to lie, it actually paid off for me. I was on Penn State in that game. They covered that by a late touchdown, which would be considered a backdoor score, right? Kind of piling it on when they really had no reason punching it in. Lance, who do you like in this one?
You know, it's an interesting game because if you go back a year ago right now, the shortest odds to lose their job, and that guy right now is Billy Napier at Florida. But last year it was Neil Brown at West Virginia. Nobody gave him a shot to survive. And not only did he survive, he won 9 games. Now, you mentioned the game in Happy Valley against Penn State. Tight game at halftime. They gave up 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter to end up losing the game by 23 and ended up not getting the cover. And they are 2-6, their last 8 against the number against the Big Ten. But Garrett Green's a really good quarterback.
I like Green. I do like Green.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dual threat guy. He can get it done with his legs. And the biggest problem for Drew Aller, everybody talks about this is going to be, the Penn State quarterback. Trace McSorley was good. Obviously, Kerry Collins. But, guys like Sean Clifford were just serviceable quarterbacks that were okay.
None of them came in with the accolades of Aller. Yeah. Aller was supposed to be the next big thing at Penn State, maybe one of the best quarterbacks to actually wear that navy and white. So he did come around with much more hype than any Penn State quarterback that I can remember in recent time.
And you know what's nuts is they were 12th nationally in points scored because James Franklin's one of these guys. And, one of the more incredible accomplishments, he went back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt. One of the reasons he's coaching at Penn State. But his offense has always seemed challenged to me. But last year they were 12th nationally in points per game at 36.2. You mentioned the running backs, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. That 1-2 punch takes a lot of pressure off of Drew Aller. I just don't know if he's got a burner. He doesn't have a Jahan Dotson that, Penn State had a couple of years ago. This is going to be one of those crowds. Like, if this game was at night, Jay, I really believe that West Virginia, the crowd, could influence this game 3 or 4 points just because they would be so lubricated on their moonshine or whatever, drinking all day at the tailgate. But because it goes off at noon Eastern, there it is. They ain't drinking that shit in Morgantown.
They're dipping into some of Grandpa's cough syrup.
That and they maybe if they step it up, if they saved up Jose Cuervo the gold, that would be it. But if this game was at night, I would feel much better about West Virginia. Penn State, for whatever, if they're not playing Michigan or Ohio State, they cruise under James Franklin. So this number, everybody's like, it's massive, which it kind of is. Penn State's covered 6 straight against Big 12 opponents. You look at their last 19 out, or 20 out, I should say, 15-4-1 against the number, 15-3 straight up their last 18. These are games that Penn State loves, and typically they for whatever reason go out, they win and they cover. This game kind of scares me. I will tell you this about me. One of my big hesitations as a capper is noon Eastern games. I don't know why.
Fucking hate them.
I do too.
Agree. No. We're in lockstep with that. I absolutely co-sign that. And I think it's more so the chase factor. The problem is as a handicapper, as a bettor, the last thing you want to do is have the rest of your day ride on what happens at 12 o'clock. You have so much green grass ahead of you that you don't want to be sitting there down money on the early card. And those early cards are always a little iffy. Those 12 o'clock games, like if you're going to get an upset, there's 2 spots where it usually comes, right? It either usually comes early in the day or very late in the day. But of course, that's because late in the day, what's it going to be? It's going to be the Mountain West, or it's going to be the Pac-12. It's going to be one of those goofy fucking conferences where anything can happen. But these 12 o'clock starts, I honestly, I typically stay away. I would rather give my opinions and my picks and my leans out on a show like this, and we'll be doing this every week. So I'd rather give them here than place any real money. And I do have a big play going on this week. Actually, already locked in. I personally have 20,000 on one game this weekend, and it's not going to be a 12 o'clock game. I promise you that.
Yeah, well, the one other thing I would say, we already kind of locked in on the under 48.5 where it is right now with Georgia and Clemson, and that is a noon game. This totals 51.5 in Morgantown. And I know Neil Brown. I'm not name dropping here, but when he was at Troy in state in Alabama, where I'm coming from right now, he would come in studio and he won, back-to-back, had 10-win seasons, was a former assistant at Kentucky, well-respected amongst coaches. And one of the reasons he got this West Virginia job. But if you go back to his Troy days, they were winning games like 17-14. His defenses were really good. His defense was shit last year. Giving up over 26 points per game. They've only got 4 returning starters. Defense has got to get much better. I think they will be better this year. I kind of lean the under 51.5 here. I don't love this game. I would, again, if it was at night, I would play West Virginia plus the points, but I lean under 51.5.
I'm actually on the lines in this spot. So I did bet this one just like I did bet the Clemson, Georgia under. I actually bet Penn State in this game. And these aren't big bets for me. I mean, anywhere from 1 to 2,000 on these games. Most of you guys know me from social media and know I'll play up to 20,000, which was all I'm pretty much allowed to play. I am on Penn State in here. Look, like I said, they beat the shit out of this team last year. Franklin shows he's not scared to run it up. They should do it again. Penn State's going to be better than they were last year. Aller's going to be better than he was last year, which is pretty fucking scary considering that Aller actually balled out in this game last year, passing for over 325 yards, 4 scores. The problem for the Mountaineers isn't going to be their offense. Green's back, and like I said, I like Green. I respect Green, but Green seems to disappear in the biggest moments against the best teams. But defensively, they gave up 26 a game last season. Only returned 4 starters, also had some injuries in the spring. That's going to hurt their depth chart. Penn State's offense, new offensive coordinator. It's going to turn a lot of heads this season, and it's going to start on Saturday. Now, don't forget, Penn State, 15-3 straight up in its last 18 games, 15-4-1 against the spread in its last 20. They also travel well, 5 of their last 6 on the road against what's a mediocre West Virginia defense. I'm definitely taking Penn State to get it done in this one. I do like this game. Like I said, ticket already in pocket. Give me Penn State, the Lions. I don't care if it's 7, 7.5, 8.5. And this will probably be a game that I look for a money line parlay to go along with, which I'm in love with my money line parlays. And I definitely think that Penn State wins this one outright on the field.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think Penn State wins the game. Now, you can win the game and not cover the 7.5, 8,
right,
8.5, wherever you're shopping this right now. But this would be an awful loss for James Franklin based on the fact that, Penn State fans, I think, give him a pass, Jay, because you've dealt with Michigan, you've dealt with Ohio State right there in division when you look at the old Big Ten East, the way that thing was aligned. But now with Penn State, it's college football playoff or bust in a 12-team playoff. If they
I think Franklin has to be added to that list of coaches on the hot seat.
Oh,
you want to talk about Florida State, you want to talk about West Virginia. Franklin is pretty much for me on top of that list.
If he was to not get to a college football playoff this year, I would agree with you 100%. But if you lose this game and you go 0-1, and that's out of conference against a Big 12, and you still get that Big 10 schedule coming up, you're behind the 8 ball immediately. So I do think Penn State wins this game. Whether or not they cover, we shall see again.
I actually think they win this one rather easily, pretty handily. I think they get there by double digits. I'm going to like it, and I'm going to probably play it a little bit bigger in a parlay, money line parlay. But let's move on unless you have anything else to say on this game.
No, I'm good.
Now, coming up, of course, my game of the week, the game I'm going to be locked into. Now, if this game is being played at Hard Rock, I'd be there in person, but this is going to be at the Swamp. Number 19, Miami, the Canes. My squad going up. So this is a little Lance and I battle. Lance is definitely an SEC guy. You know, I'm a big Miami fan, of course. Number 19, Miami versus the University of Florida. Miami's laying 2.5, total at 54. I'm going to look past the spread and the total in this one. I do have a prop, and I have a prop that I actually love in this play. It's going to be my top prop. Lance, which way are you going in this? Tell me who you like and tell me why you like them.
Okay, so I've been back and forth, but I think I've kind of dialed in on this game right now. And you look at both coaches, obviously the loser of this game, it's going to be a long week, and obviously it can ultimately be a long season. These two teams met every year from 44 to 1987. They've only met 7 times in 3.5 decades since. Mario Cristobal has 0 excuses now. He has a collective that is behind him. And, you know, not only did they go out in the portal, ding, there's one, to get a guy like Cam Ward, who threw for almost 7,000 yards and 61 touchdowns over the last 2 years in Pullman, Washington, for Washington State. They also go up to the Pacific Northwest and Damian Martinez. And I'll let you get to this guy in a little bit, but he is one of the best running backs nobody knows about because obscurely playing for the Beavers and Jonathan Smith, it was a great offense. This is a guy that should really take a lot of pressure off of Cam Ward.
Yes.
And Billy Napier is 11-14 in 2 seasons. I do think Florida is going to be improved. I was shocked how good Graham Mertz was, just leading the offense, protecting the football, not turning it over. They still lost 7 games, though. They ended the season on a 5-game losing streak where they gave up almost 39 points per game during that 5-game streak. There is so much more pressure to me on Billy Napier. I had talked myself into believing that Florida could win this game, and look, they still can. But I think Miami, this is one of those games where Miami's got to grab the ACC, already losing Florida State. You look at the odds now to win the conference. Clemson is your favorite to win the conference. We both agree they're going to lose to Georgia. And if Miami loses, your top 3 favorites to win that conference are already 0-1. I think Miami wins this game. I'm going to lay the 2.5.
I actually agree with you, but I don't know if it's because I'm biased. I do like Miami in this spot, but I'm actually salivating at a rushing prop, and you already mentioned it. Damian Martinez over 70.5. This is another play I bet. So this is 3 straight games. I'm not just giving you guys leans or games that, you know, are going by the waistline. These are 3 tickets that I'm already holding. Damian Martinez over 70.5 yards running. He's one of my favorite backs, legitimate workhorse. He had nearly 200 carries last year. I get it. That was at Oregon State. That was the Pac-12. But he rushed for over 1,100 yards. I don't give a fuck what conference you're in. The dude averages over 6 yards per carry. Now entering an offense that actually caters to him even more than Oregon State did last year. Miami averaged 170 yards per game on the ground. Martinez, this prop has gone over in 10 of his last 12 games, averaged 98 per game. And don't forget, where was Florida the weakest? Florida 79th in run defense. The Gators allowed over 155 yards on the ground per game last year. Miami's going to look to control the clock. This is my top prop. I love this prop. Martinez over 70.5 yards rushing. And I'm going to give you guys a gift. This is probably, of all the transfer portal pickups, my favorite pickup. And of course, I'm biased. You know, I'm a Miami fan. But I love this. I love this pickup. I think he's actually going to mean more to the Canes than Ward is going to mean.
So this would be, in my opinion, coaching malpractice if Mario Cristobal, and look, and we've seen coaching malpractice from Mario Cristobal. You saw it against Georgia Tech last year.
I'm actually going to take off the paddock, and I'm actually going to send it to Cristobal.
If Cristobal doesn't, hey, you plug that in? Power strip, please. Sorry about that, Jay. If he doesn't get 20-plus touches, it is coaching malpractice.
It's a sin. Absolute sin.
And so I agree with you. I think Damian Martinez, I think it is a great prop in this spot. And you look at Billy Napier, 1-6 against ranked opponents. By the way, Miami's ranked.
They are. They are. I don't think we're ranked quite high enough. But again, that's on projections based upon who we picked up rather than what we've done on the field. All right, we're going to move on to the next game. I'm not in love with this game, but we'll talk about it anyway. And that's Texas El Paso, otherwise known as UTEP versus Nebraska. Nebraska's laying 27.5. The total here is at 48.5. Matt Rule, second season in Lincoln. Nebraska should be better. Still, I'm not laying 27. What are you doing, Lance?
Well, Dylan Raiola, I mean, you got a true freshman quarterback, and everybody says this guy is the real deal. That is a lot of points for a true freshman quarterback. You start to look at, and I brought this up earlier, Jay, that coaches, elite coaches, and I don't know if you would consider Matt Rule an elite coach, what he was able to do at Temple, what he was able to do at Baylor, pretty incredible. But in his second year, you see a massive jump. And this was a 5-7 team last year, and the black shirts were back. The offense was the problem. Everybody talked about how horrific that Iowa offense was in the Big Ten. Well, the second worst offense in the Big Ten was Nebraska. They only averaged 17 points per game. I do think this team is going to be massively improved. You've got a new head coach in UTEP who won 3 games last year, Scotty Walden, if anybody gives a shit who that is. They've got a quarterback situation. I don't know if it's going to be Cade McConnell. I don't know if it's going to be Skylar Locklear. I don't think it matters. They're getting $1.65 million to go to Memorial Stadium, by the way, where the Huskers are 12-0 versus non-conference opponents in the month of August. Nebraska wins this game. Do they cover the 27.5? I don't know. These kind of games scare me, Jay, and you've known this because you've been capping a long time. You could be up 42 and have – or 40 and have, a backdoor couple of touchdowns in the final 8 minutes of garbage. You felt like you covered the whole game and you get completely dicked in the end. I'm not comfortable laying the points either, but I'm sure as hell not playing the Miners.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. UTEP hasn't named the starting quarterback. I mean, Cade McConnell is the lead option, right? But he has a fucking QBR under 35. I don't know if there's a worse projection in college football. Listen, I'll make this short. My only lean in this spot is going to be UTEP, and it's going to be UTEP's team total under 10.5. No, I'm not taking Texas El Paso. I wouldn't fucking dream of taking Texas El Paso, but I'm not going to lay 27 with a freshman quarterback.
I kind of like where your head is. I mean, the total's only 49.5, and
exactly.
Look, we know this. People love to play overs. People hate playing unders.
That's because it's those idiots at Barstool. They made all these shirts, always bet the over. Life's too short to bet the under. So of course, and look, do you really want to root or cheer on a Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday for bad football, for defensive football, for ugly football? I mean, I do because I'm a defensive-minded guy, right? But that's not what you really want to root for. I'm a bigger under player than I am over player. But most aren't like that. The public want points. They want shootouts. And look, I get it. I understand why scoring is more exciting, especially for those fantasy nerds. But the truth of the matter here is, look, the only thing I can look at and the only thing I trust at all is Matt Rule and the Nebraska defense returning. Most of their key players from last year are returning. So going up against a quarterback with a 35 QBR, 10.5. I mean, I think that's a world of a number for UTEP to get to.
Well, I think you've just given a PSA for people that don't like playing unders, because I think it is a difference in playing the under 49.5 for the game and just rooting for bad football, or playing the under 10.5 UTEP team total points. And I agree with you. I kind of like that. And therefore, you're just playing Nebraska can score their ass off. You just want Nebraska dominating defensively. So you do have it's easier, I think, to be able to pull for that one angle than pulling for the whole entirety of an under.
Yeah, that's the only way I'm looking at this. And I may actually get to the window with this. Again, that's UTEP team total under 10.5. Moving on to the next game, we have UNLV, the Running Rebels versus Houston. Now, if this game was a couple years ago, you'd say shootout, shootout, shootout. In this game, Houston's laying 2.5. The total is at 54.5. I still don't understand how Houston is favored in this game. I mean, one team finished 9-5 last year. It wasn't Houston. One team is in a major rebuild. That would be Houston. I'll gladly take the points and back the Rebels. I'll explain my reasoning. But Lance, do you have anybody in this game? Any leans, any locks? What do you like?
So I'll tell you a story. I was at my youngest brother's bachelor party in New Orleans just a couple of years ago, and there was this group of bachelorette girls next to us, and there was a couple of older ladies and, striking up a conversation with the girls.
You had me until you said a couple of older ladies.
Well, there's a reason.
You absolutely had me. I was locked in, dialed into your story until you said older ladies.
There is a reason I bring up Cougars, Jay, because I struck up a conversation with the younger girls, and then some of the older ones come over, and they're very protective. And I start talking to this lady, and it's Willie Fritz's wife, who was the former Tulane coach, who is now taking over Houston. So sweet lady. So that was my one Willie Fritz kind of connection, I guess. They've got 63 newcomers, and you asked the reason they might be favored. The only reason would be Donovan Smith. I mean, Donovan Smith can be an electric quarterback. But when you've got 63 newcomers coming in, it's going to take a little bit of time to gel. UNLV will play fast. Barry Odom, I thought, was an underrated coach, very good defensive coordinator, got a job at Missouri, was the head guy there, basically 500 football, which I thought wasn't bad for Missouri. Now, it looks like they've done well going out and getting Eli Drinkwitz coming off 11 wins last year. But this UNLV offense, Brennan Marion is the guy calling the shots. They call it the go-go offense. And, boy, they like to score points, almost 35 points per game last year. Now, Jaden Maeva has transferred out to USC. He's the backup to Miller Moss. So you are replacing quarterback. But Ricky White III, who was a third-team All-American wide receiver, set all types of school records last year for the Running Rebels. I like the Running Rebels here. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time for Houston to build and figure out where they are with these 63 new faces. And Jadine Thomas, 503 yards, 12 touchdowns, is a true freshman running back. I think he'll be able to run all over a Houston defense that gave up 170 yards per game and 27 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going to gladly take the points in this spot. I'm actually in lockstep with you. I'm back in the Rebels here. I mean, for me, this is just really a spots play. Willie Fritz, like him, taking over. He's devoid of talent. Any talent that he had at Houston pretty much jumped ship in the transfer portal.
Yeah. It's only
Thanks, Birdsey, for leading us in there. I mean, look, they did. The talent all jumped ship in the transfer portal. Now they're dealing with a new staff, a new roster, playing one of the fastest paced offenses in college football, 39th in EPA. What could go wrong? I mean, absolutely nothing, right? Nothing can go wrong, right? I mean, week one, communication is going to be an issue. So, yeah, Houston, we do have a problem. Give me UNLV. I'm going to take the plus points in this one. I don't care if it's 2.5. I may actually lock into UNLV money line in this spot.
Yeah, I like it. I think it could be a live dog. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at strictly communication errors. You can see, like the water boy when he enters the game for the first time, and he's running into other linebackers, and he's running into the defensive line. He doesn't know what to do or where to stand.
Well, I've been waiting for you to bring up communication, because in-helmet communication, I think for the first few weeks, maybe the entire season, because we always see clock mismanagement by these coaches. And now when you have this in-game communication, you're going to see a lot of this. And this next game we're getting to, I think this is going to be a massive factor.
Well, Lance already teed that one up, so let's just go right into it. And here it is. Number 7, Notre Dame, the Golden Domers. Number 20, Texas A&M, the Aggies. A&M at home, lane 2.5. The total here is at 46.5. I mean, it's an alarming drop in this one as far as the total goes. It did open up at 50.5. We're now sitting at 46.5. Lance, what do you think? Too drastic? Personally, I'm looking at the over in this spot, but tell me which way you're going.
So I like Marcus Freeman a lot. And when you look at their schedule, if they are able to get by A&M, they should be in the college football playoff. They got a couple of tricky games against SC, against Georgia Tech. Now, I think that's a game you got to look at. And Florida State comes to South Bend. But Mike Elko is a hell of a coach. And he is a guy that was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He goes to Duke. Let's not forget this, Jay. He was 4-0 last year. They dominated Clemson to kick off the season. And then they were up 4-0. They were up, I think, 6 or 5 against Notre Dame. They had
should have beat Notre Dame. Yep, agree 100%.
Yeah.
Should have beat. I was actually on Duke in that game.
Riley Leonard should have been doing victory formation. He comes in, hurts his ankle. He's done for the year, and everything kind of falls apart. They still had a solid season. But before that happened, this Notre Dame team was 2 of 15 on third downs against Mike Elko. Mike Elko is one of the best defensive minds in all of college football. Not only is he going against a Notre Dame team that he held 2 of 15 third downs last year, he's going against his former quarterback in Riley Leonard. The offensive line is suspect right now for Notre Dame. I think that's their weakest spot. And when you're talking about a crowd, Kyle Field brings it. Now, it doesn't equate to championships, but it's going to be a loud spot. Riley Leonard, first game, new system with that in-helmet communication. I think that's going to be a problem. And by the way, Connor Wegman was so good through 3 games last year, ended up breaking his foot in game number 4. Through 3 games, he led the FBS in QBR. So this is a quarterback nobody's talking about. I have seen some scouts have him in the first round of next May's draft. I think Wegman's going to be one of the big surprises in the SEC. And I think A&M, now that they finally got a coach going from Jimbo Fisher to Mike Elko, they're going to be a handful to deal with.
You know what's funny, and I get it. You mentioned Elko, and I love Elko, right? But more important, at least for me, is former Kansas State OC Colin Klein. I mean, what the Aggies are going to employ: high tempo, run heavy offense, and what does that do? That means an all-out run attack, which opens up the field, opens up play action pass behind one of the best offensive lines in college football. Big runs and plenty of scores. Connor Weigman averaged 8 yards per pass last year, and now he gets this running attack, this new up-tempo run game. It's going to open up the field. I actually like the over in this spot because I do think Texas A&M is going to be able to hit the end zone quite a bit. But I also believe, and I get Elko is going to be, going to know Riley Leonard, anybody better than anybody else would know Riley Leonard. However, I still think that Notre Dame's able to put up points in this spot. And they did get Chris Mitchell. So if they can just do enough offensively and they can get the time on the through the offensive line, which is the major concern for Notre Dame, you got one of the best deep threats in college football, one of the best deep threat wide receivers in the nation, averaged 17.5 yards per catch last season. Riley Leonard should have fun playing with his new toys over here at Notre Dame. I think that this game is going to be a shootout. I know that everybody, including most of the experts, that think this game is going to be extremely low scoring. I'm actually on the opposite end of the spectrum there. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I think Texas A&M by ground, Notre Dame by air, and that's just the way I see this game. So if I'm playing anything in this game at all, and look, guys, full transparency, I have not been to the window with this. I may not get to the window with this, but I like the over in this spot. I see high points. I see a lot of offense coming here. Lance, would you agree with the total?
Yeah, I think I would agree with the total with you there. I mean, again, it's a low total, but I'll give you the total. I will take A&M minus the 2.5. I hope this isn't one of those late ticks where it goes above a field goal. Then I don't know how much value you're actually getting. I will say, though, Kyle Field, especially a primetime game, it is going to be loud. And they have won 3 consecutive games in Kyle Field against top 10 opponents, which, by the way, Notre Dame is a top 10 opponent.
Well, guys, just a little nugget here for all of you. Home favorites, college football, favorites in college football week 1, 53%. And what I do like about the A&M pick is, I told you I'm like a very big numbers guy, right? Whenever you have a higher or lower, depending on how you want to look at it, like Texas A&M is ranked 20th, Notre Dame's ranked 7th. Whenever you have a 20th ranked team laying points to a team that's higher ranked in the polls, like a number 7 Notre Dame, that usually plays out to the higher rank. Like we're talking about a 60% stat to where that team typically ends up covering. So in this spot at home, Texas A&M would absolutely be a play for me if I'm just following that system. And I may get to the window with Texas A&M. I may do a little SGP, Texas A&M, and over the posted total. I actually kind of like that. You know what? I'm going to do it. Fuck it.
Yeah, I like this. I like Jay drinking because it makes him gamble more. I want to see some of these $20,000 limit plays.
No, this is not going to be a $20 ticket. I can tell you that right now. Although, if you guys were in that fucking channel yesterday, you did smash that over 3.5. I posted that ticket yesterday for you guys. The Dodgers team total over 3.5. $10,000 ticket on the Dodgers. They did cash that thanks to Hernandez. A nice little 3-run ding dong. But I'm gonna actually play this right now, and as soon as I get there up there, I'll actually show you guys the ticket. I don't care. Where we at with Texas A&M? I'm gonna play $1,000 same game parlay, Texas A&M, and over the posted total. All right, I'll actually post that shit
There
on
we
social
go. Hey,
media.
money where mouth is. I like where you are here.
You know, but that's what you have to do, right? Like, you know what? Listen, I would just be any other capper on social media if I actually did not put my money where my mouth was. If I didn't actually play this shit the way I play this shit, and I don't just sit here and bet peanuts. I bet real money every day, day in, day out. I ride every day. I'm not one of these clowns that show a ticket every now and then. Hey, look, guys, I won a $20,000 bet. Every day in the grind, riding with the community. And I will post this ticket. I'm actually going to post this ticket, and this will give the guys who are not in the YLose Free Pick Telegram channel a reason to hit the YLose Free Pick Telegram channel. We're going to post that link below. Make sure you get in that. Matter of fact, I'm also going to post it in Lance's YLose Free Pick Telegram channel. That's actually new, so we're looking to beef that one up as well. This show is definitely going to do that. I'm not even worried about that. I'm going to post a ticket there. Make sure you follow Lance. Lance actually has a free pick going on Thursday night. I know it's going to be too late by the time you guys see this show, but Lance is going to be dropping nuggets in college football all season long and above and beyond what we do here in this show. So I'm going to post this later on. Texas A&M and over the posted total, same game parlay. Right now, what we're going to do is move on to what is my favorite game of the week.
This is such a shit game. I am going to let you have this one. I will chime in and interject a couple of things, but you can. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, you know what? Next week I'm going to play Sweet Home Alabama when this one cashes, just for you.
Okay, fair enough.
UCLA versus Hawaii. UCLA is laying 14. The total here is at 54.5. Look, I'm just going to go basically straight through it. I'm taking UCLA. They're going to cover this game on the road. I would actually lay 20 in this spot. 14 is actually a gift. The Bruins defense was top 20 last season. I don't understand what people don't understand about that. They returned half of their starters on the defense. Rainbow Warriors O-line is a joke. 115th in sacks allowed last season, 90th in EPA per play. Somehow Hawaii's defense is actually worse than their offense. 109th in scoring, allowed their opponents over 34 points a game. UCLA puts up bunches of offense last year, 37th in total offense, averaged 400 yards a game. Time of possession is going to be key, but time of possession is going to be all UCLA. UCLA, TJ Harden, rushed for over 800 yards last year. He'll be back. He'll be better this season. Hawaii allowed 170 yards per game on the ground last year. UCLA is going to run it down the throats of the Warriors. They're also going to run up the score. I love the Bruins in this spot.
Okay, can I throw another trivia question at you?
Uh-oh, here we go. Let's go.
So the last time UCLA played on the island, who was their starting tailback?
Was his name Deuce?
It was not Deuce. And I would have said, just to pull this off the table, Deshaun
Maurice
Foster,
Jones?
when I heard this earlier, because obviously Deshaun Foster kind of thrown into this situation. I don't have a ton of confidence long-term for Deshaun Foster, but believe it or not, it was Jackie Robinson.
Oh, shit. No, you know, my next guest was going to be Jones Drew, but that's only because I'm thinking of like the biggest names at UCLA. And then I was actually gonna hit you with one. I was going to say Miles Jack.
Oh, Miles Jack. Yeah, but two-way player, man. Really
People
good.
forget that Miles Jack was also a running back.
Yeah.
You know, and linebacker. But although even at UCLA, he only came in like goal line runs.
So I got to tell you, last Saturday I was at a place called the Floribama. So it is the best bar ever. It's on the line. It directly is on the center line of the state line of Florida and Alabama.
Hey, time out. Before you go on any further with that, me and my friends are all going to disagree. We're going to say Double D is absolutely the best bar ever. And that's just because of the Cuban women that are in there every night. And by the way, if you didn't know, it's a strip club. So of course it's the best bar ever.
The Double D. I would have figured that out, Jay. Next time I'm down in South Beach, you guys make sure you take me to the Double D. But anyway, I was in Floribama. We had way too much fun, day drinking all day on the beach, on the boat, and then at night. So my point was going to be, I did not see Hawaii and Delaware State. The thing I hate about UCLA Hawaii that it's a 7:30 kick. I remember back in the day, we used to have 1 a.m. Saturday, Sunday morning Hawaii kicks. Those are the kind of games I like. I like staying up till 4 a.m. and watching, money that I have put on a team, whether it's
watching Colt Brennan. Watching Colt Brennan.
Yeah, those were good teams back in the day. All that said, man, I don't know what to expect from UCLA. They do have a lot coming back on a really good defense. As you said, they were a top 20 defense last year. Ethan Garbers is okay at quarterback, but Hawaii is garbage. This is not June Jones Hawaii where, you go back to Colt Brennan, the team that played in the Sugar Bowl. This is a shit product. I'm staying away from it because I don't want to watch it.
Listen, I think if they don't throw a single pass in this game, TJ Harden still gets us there. That's my outlook on this game.
It wouldn't blow me away.
All right, New Mexico at Arizona. I actually have a prop in this game. Arizona's laying 31. I'm not laying 31 with anybody. The total's at 58.5. I actually have a McMillan anytime touchdown in this one. What say you, Lance?
Well, I got to be honest. I had Montana State, and it was just one of those forced, again, I was on the beach last weekend, and I felt like I needed to put some money on that game. So I took Montana State. I laid the points. I thought it was weird that you had an FCS laying double digits. Number got all the way up to 13. New Mexico is absolute garbage. I can't believe Bronco Mendenhall goes from BYU to Virginia to now New Mexico. They gave up 362 yards on the ground. Now, the difference is Arizona loves to throw it around with Noah Fafita. I still think, an Arizona team that was 11-2 against the number. You've got a new a new head coach in Brian Brennan coming in from San Jose State. This is a guy that before Kalen DeBoer was hired at Washington, they really gave this guy a look. So he's well respected. Obviously, Jed Fish did a really good job with this Arizona team getting now the Washington job. But Brent Brennan is a guy that is well respected. So I think Arizona can name their price here. I wonder how much they'll show offensively. In New Mexico, with all that effort last week, they still come up short.
So is McMillan the best receiver in the country?
6'4", former basketball and volleyball player. I mean, he's just one of those guys that can high point absolutely anything. So I think you can make that argument. And I don't think a lot of people know about him because, he's
nobody understands. Nobody knows. They don't know. They don't know. Unless you live on the West Coast, they don't know.
Yeah, kid from Hawaii, plays at Arizona. Although they had a great year, ended up a top 15 team last year. Nobody watched them. So you could definitely make that argument.
Actually, like I said, McMillan, anytime touchdown, the best quarterback receiver duo in the country. So if you didn't know, now you know. Fafita, McMillan, best quarterback receiver duo in the country. Fafita threw for 25 touchdowns last year. On the receiving end of 10 of them, of course, was McMillan. I like this prop. I actually like it a lot. I actually think that this should probably cash within the first quarter because I think by halftime, both of these guys are sitting on the bench.
You talk about quarterback receiver combos, and I don't want to jump the gun on our next game, but I am hoping
it's going to be somebody from Alabama, right?
No. I don't think they look, and I think Jalen Milroe under Kalen DeBoer and his progression last year, not to get on a tangent, they've got Western Kentucky. No, we're not talking about that game. But if Alabama can identify a frontline receiver, and they've got a true freshman 5-star guy in Ryan Williams coming in, they've got Jeremy Bernard coming over from Washington, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, they've got some guys. I don't think they've got one of those guys. But the game we're going to get into Sunday night, I hope we have the best quarterback receiver combo in college football just because, believe it or not, Alabama grad, USC fan.
Uh-oh, here we go. But before we get into the next game, Lance, tell them what you have going on here this weekend. You guys can always catch Lance every single day. YLose.com/Lance. Lance, tell them what you have for members this weekend.
Yeah, we've got daily packages, we've got weekly, we've got monthly. Jump on board, sample us. We've got a free play every single day. We are going to win for you. We gave you a free winner outright live dog last week with Georgia Tech. We've got 3 plays up. Again, probably too late to get these on this Thursday. We will have a full slate. And, the way I do college football, it could be 5 plays. It could be 13 plays. It just depends on, the way I've already been, breaking down the board as you have. And I've already got 6 plays that I absolutely love. Probably will end up with more just, like Christmas morning coming, the week 1 of college football. But we're going to win for you here at YLose. So excited to join the team this year. We had a great March Madness for anybody watching that liked and subscribed back in March Madness. We killed it there, and we're going to continue to roll here into this fall.
Yeah, like most of my subscribers know that, and I talk a lot about Coach. There's a handful of cappers that I rely on, and most of them are YLose cappers. Lance is one of those guys. Like, Lance couldn't count. If you took off his shoes, fingers, toes, Lance could not count how many times I hit him up after a couple of shots of this. Lance, give me a lock. I'm just degenerating right now. I just want to bet on something. You know what? I'm too fucking drunk to do any of the work myself. Just give me something I can lay into, and Lance will make me money, off of a game, and I'll just end up sending him something just as a thank you PayPal. Like, Lance is one of those guys when it comes to college sports that I actually lean on. So, guys, you can't go wrong. Get to YLose.com. That's the letter Y, LOSE.com/Lance. We're going to drop the link in the description below so you guys can find it quite easily. Also, if you're not familiar with Lance, you want to check out his free picks, just listen. It's simple. Get to his Telegram channel. We're also going to drop a link in the description below, and just watch Lance just drop winners week in and week out.
Well, look, man, I appreciate that, Jay. And you know this, man, I have done this for 25 years. All I do is live and breathe college sports. And so I'm dissecting this every single day. I take a lot of pride. You don't want to be around me when I have a losing day because I sulk. I'm a little bitch when I lose because I want everybody out there to make money and I want to be right. And I take a lot of pride in this, man. So, this is not a side hustle. This is an occupation. I take it personally, and I want you guys to win. Very important.
Exactly. Listen, I'm just here for entertainment value. Lance is going to be the one who drives this show. I'm just here to lend my name to the show, but really more so to introduce you guys to Lance. You guys know that, I'm more of a big game player. I like to lock in on 1, maybe 2 games on a college football Saturday, something that I can really sink my teeth into. I mean, I'll play a bunch of games for 1,000 here, 1,000 there, but I may not even release those games. That's just me putzing around, trying to have fun, like the same game parlay. I'm going to bet this parlay. I like the parlay. You know what? Win, lose, I don't care. I'm going to have 20,000 on something on Saturday. But I do know that Lance is definitely, a high quantity, and his selections are also quality. It's very rare to find that in a handicapper. And most of the best handicappers, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Most of the best handicappers play a bunch of games on a college football Saturday. The guys who are really dialed in and locked in when it comes to college football, college basketball, these are high volume guys. You're not going to find guys like me. I'm actually the exception to the rule. Lance is more the rule, right? Like somebody who dials into college sports, he's a high volume guy. You're going to get a bunch of plays. You're going to get a bunch of plays that start, early and take you through the day, as to where I'm just looking for that one spot on the day. So it couldn't be a better marriage, but than Lance and I. 2 guys that have completely different betting styles, joined together on one show. I'm going to give out picks on this show because that's just what I do. I'm a sick fucking degenerate. So I'm going to place a bunch of bets here and there. You know what? But when I really need a fucking play, Lance is going to get that text from me. And he talked about how he's a sore loser, right? Like, Lance will tell you, I am the biggest bitch when it comes to losses.
Probably you can be a dick, but there's nothing wrong with that. But, if you're drunk enough on that really high-end ass tequila you got back there, like if you text me the next day pissed off, I'm going to be like, that's the problem with text is you've got that paper trail. Because if it was a phone call, I'd be like, dude, I did not give you that play. I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, I can always narrow down my plays to 3 people. It's either you, Coach Rick, or Luke. So that's it. Like, I don't really go to anybody else outside of when it comes to football. And that's why all three of you are locked into YLose. Like, I would never just offer anybody on my site. I offer guys that I respect, guys that I trust. And there's a couple more that may come down the line. But like, when I build a team, I build the guys that I really would bet my hard-earned money on. And that's Lance. Like, honestly. So guys, look, enough blowing Lance here on the show. You know, make sure you guys get to ylose.com/Lance, or hit the description in the below, the description in the comments, or actually in the description below, and hit his free pick Telegram channel. Lots of free picks coming your way, and we're moving the fuck on. Number 23, USC versus 13, LSU. I'm still trying to figure out how USC's actually ranked. USC. Are they really favorites in this game?
No, they're dogs.
No, they're not. They're dogs. They're plus.
Well,
I'm gonna have to yell at Rick for this one. Rick actually wrote that. LSU is actually laying 5 in this game. The total here is at 64.5. I mean, for me, this game just screams over 2 high-powered offenses and a historically bad defense. I think we get 70 points plus in this game. Lance, which way are you going?
You know, Blake Baker and Danton Lynn are taking over these defenses, and you're right, they were atrocious last year. And I really believe, Jay, if we would have played this mid-season, late October, November, this total would have been maybe in the low 80s. And I know that sounds extreme, but these defenses couldn't stop anyone. And you look at USC last year, and this is just embarrassing. And one of the reasons Lincoln Riley didn't want to fire his good friend Alex Grinch, but had to, they had 141 missed tackles. That is more than 10 a game. That is unacceptable. It makes zero sense, because we know that USD still recruits at a high level. They've got a great collective. When they're going to buy in, I don't know. This USC team is kind of an enigma to me. I can't figure them out. But at the same time, LSU, both of these coaches come in similar circumstances, Jay. You've got third year for Brian Kelly, third year for Lincoln Riley. Both have played for a conference championship. Both have had Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, but both haven't come close to achieving what the expectation was for LSU fans and USC fans. So this is a ultra important game when you're talking about now USC in the Big Ten. If they were to lose this game, they've still got to face that Big Ten schedule. And then LSU, obviously, in the SEC, newly expanded with 16 teams, and they've got Oklahoma on their schedule this year. This is a game they need to win. These teams have only played 3 times. LSU won 23-3 back in 84. SC won 17-12 in 1979. Both quarterbacks, too, have waited their time. We don't see this anymore. Transfer portal, ding. Most guys leave. They want to play immediately. Miller Moss hung out. He stayed around. Garrett Nussmeier stayed around. Nussmeier's got more experience than Miller Moss. But when we saw Miller Moss last year in the bowl game, Holiday Bowl, 6 total touchdowns, 92 career attempts, 72% he's completed, 9 touchdowns and interception. I think both teams are going to be able to score. I think the over seems like a really good value here, but I'm also going to take USC based on this, Jay. This number was 6 just a week and a half ago, and I was waiting for it to get to 7 because I thought you got a lot of value with USC. Now, you and I both are contrarians. This number has crept down. Some shops have got it at 4.5. All of the public money is on LSU. With the number going down, I just believe that USC, for whatever reason, is going to get home here. So I like SC in the over. I'll give you the total play, but I'll take SC plus the points.
Gox Tigers. But, you know, it's SEC and everything else, right? Like, except for the.
Well, you know I'm an SEC guy, and I love Brian Kelly.
Yeah. But honestly, look, listen, I'm going to say this, right? I like the over first and foremost in this game. But I take Nussmeier starting over Moss any day of the week, right? Like, I get he had a good bowl game, right? Who did they play?
They played Louisville.
Louisville's defense? Like, Louisville has a defense? Don't they just throw the cheerleaders out there? Like, they have 11 cheerleaders? Like, dance team?
They did play for the ACC championship last year. They had a pretty good.
What happened in that game?
They lost to a shitty Florida State team with a backup quarterback. Can you give me the name of the Florida State quarterback and where he is now? Don't bother.
Why bother?
Yeah, why bother? Tate Rodemaker, but that's another story.
But I'm just saying. I told you I watched him play that Orange Bowl. Live from the box. Like, holy shit, is Florida State really this bad outside of Travis?
So
Like,
LSU might have, if not the best offensive line, one of the top 2 or 3 offensive lines. They have yet to identify their playmakers. You heard Nick Saban on set at College Game Day, if you were watching last week, Dublin before Georgia Tech and Florida State, saying it doesn't matter. LSU can lose Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. They shake a tree and shit falls out. They've just got great receivers there. Lincoln Riley's lost 5 straight against ranked opponents. They're only returning 53% of their offensive production. Again, they were awful defensively. I don't understand why this number is dropping. Tell me, Jake, why is this number dropping?
because it's they're laying 5 with a terrible defense. Listen, I can't make any excuses for LSU's defense. It's terrible. It was terrible last year. It's going to be bad again. But if you're looking at these numbers, and I'm going to be honest with you, like, it's not like I'm in love with the LSU side in this, right? Laying 5, I'm not going to lay 5 with the Tigers under any circumstance. However, like I told you, I'm going to go over because I always trust what I know. And what I know is both offenses should be capable enough to give me 30-plus points against these defenses. Now, I will say this, though. If there's any team that's going to have a surprise defense in this game that, oh, shit, where did that come from? It's not going to be USC. I can guarantee you that. It's not going to be Lincoln Riley. I don't even think Lincoln Riley like recruits defensive players. I think what Lincoln Riley does is he just takes like guys who didn't make the receiving core and ends up throwing them at cornerback. Guys who didn't make the running back room, throws them at linebacker. All right, don't worry, you'll stay there. And worst case scenario, you know what? We'll end up just throwing you in here and there, right? But no, you're a linebacker. You didn't know you have great ball skills. That's what Lincoln Riley does. Lincoln Riley is fucking awful. You know what? The next game that Lincoln Riley coaches, I hope, honestly, like the scoreboard falls, smashes him in the fucking head. And Lincoln Riley never coaches another game as long as he lives. Like, honestly, it's just me. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not a Lincoln Riley guy. I don't know.
Maybe not. I do think Blake Baker is the more proven defense coordinator. One of the reasons Missouri won 11 games last year. But Dan Lynn is a guy, Anthony Lynn's kid. Really, you go back to UCLA, you love him this week against Hawaii. He was their defense coordinator last year. He's really good. Whether or not he's got the personnel, we shall see. I lean USC. I think you get a lot of value with that 64.5. And I will ask you this: with only seven possessions per team last week in Dublin, 14 total possessions, do you think that number or that under has affected some of these totals where they're at? Because 64.5 for these two teams based on last year seems low.
No, I don't. What I really believe is I think it's more of a due to the clock not stopping every first down, right?
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it.
That's what's killing totals in college football. I don't understand why you take what's like a perfect fucking product, right? And then you try to make it better, but it was already a perfect product. College football was at its best when there was a Big East, right? When Mike Canes played in the Big East,
Virginia Tech, Syracuse,
West Virginia.
Yeah.
There wasn't a better product in college football. My laptop's dying. So why you trying
because
to say
they want to well, two reasons. They want to model the
saving?
NFL and they want that window to be 3 hours for TV constraints, which they fucked that up. They should have just.
And then they fucked up the overtime 2-point conversions. What the fuck are you doing?
Awful. That was knee jerk on A&M and LSU going 7 overtimes. I agree with you.
And then what was that Penn State game that went to like 10 overtimes and then ended up winning by 2? Yeah. Like, that's ridiculous. But okay, so back to this game. If I was going to play a side, and I'm not playing a side, I'm steady on that. Like, my point with LSU is I just trust Kelly more. Obviously, I'm not a Lincoln Riley guy, right? You guys get that?
Yeah.
But I'm not a Lincoln Riley guy. So I trust Kelly a lot more than I trust Riley. And I also trust an SEC school over everything else, especially when it comes to recruiting defense, especially a school that's deep in the heart of Louisiana, a team in Baton Rouge. You know what? That's like a hotbed of college football talent. I think it's easier to rebuild and reload a defense in the SEC, in Louisiana, than you are in Southern California, right? And we all know that Nussmeier has game experience. And we're not talking about one game here. We're talking about he has plenty game experience. So I'm just going to trust LSU on that front. So anything I said about Lance in the previous segment, I take back. You know what? Fuck Lance.
I think Brian Kelly's a better coach than Lincoln Riley. I really do. I just don't fucking understand why this number continues to drop. But we'll see what happens.
Listen, if you play the spot, I wouldn't. I can't talk you off of it. But the bottom line here is, I'm on the over. 70+ points are going to be scored in this game, and that's just based on what I know. Look, when you talk about Nussmeier, in the one start last year against Wisconsin, which wasn't a terrible defense, wasn't a good defense, but wasn't a terrible defense. It was a bad defense considered Big Ten defenses, right? But he threw for 395 yards. You put up over 4, you put close to 4 beans on any team in college football. You got skill, right? 3 touchdowns. His arm is better than Daniels. I'm going to state that right now. And USC was ranked out of the top 100 when it comes to passing Ds last year. 246 yards per game. LSU should be able to torch this team. And I do think that USC is also going to be able to score. Look, it's just the bottom line here. I'm not a Lincoln Riley guy. I'm never going to bet on a Lincoln Riley team. I'll never place a single dollar on a Lincoln Riley team. But I am going to take the over in this game. And the over when it comes to Lincoln Riley, you know what? It hits 62% of the time. So just give me the over to post the total.
I got nothing on that. You said enough.
We're going to go on to the last game, and this is going to be Monday. I'm going to be drinking quite a bit of tequila on Monday, and this is Boston College versus Florida State.
I love this game. I love it.
You're sick in the fucking face, Lance. Boston College, Florida State. Is Florida State really still ranked 10th? Well, or is just the new AP polls haven't come out?
The poll, they haven't rolled it out yet. They will drop significantly. I don't think there's any.
Yeah, I mean, if they're in the top 20, I'd be shocked. Listen, I'm going to tell you this one thing right now. Florida State's trash. Go Canes. Florida State's laying 15.5, totals at 50. There is a massive overreaction. And I'm not going to lie. I'm actually going to be on Florida State in this game. The line did open up at 17.5, dropped, 2 full points. I don't understand that. I mean, the Noles lost to Georgia Tech in Ireland. My issues is that Tech is a much better team than Boston College. I mean, Tech did go to a bowl game last year, and they played their best football down the stretch of the season. I like Florida State in a bounce-back game. I think Florida State definitely wins and covers this game. What say you?
I agree with you, and I'm just looking ahead real quick. I want to see if Georgia Tech has BC this year because I was going to make a point with this. I am just pulling Georgia Tech's schedule real quick. Because you talk about value in Georgia Tech, do they have BC? Let's see here. I don't see BC on the schedule. Anyway, I was going to say if they play in Atlanta, BC, I think Georgia Tech will ultimately be a double-digit favorite. I think you're getting a lot of value here at Florida State. Now, watching DJ Uiagalelei did not look good last week. There's no confidence in Mike Norvell to unleash him. He had that option last year with Jordan Travis. You're still trying to identify playmakers when you lose Trey Benson out of the backfield and you lose Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson, receivers like that. But I still think Florida State's got a lot of talent. They got exposed up front last week. I agree with you. I think in year 3, Brent Key has got a pretty good squad in Georgia Tech. The Bill O'Brien era begins here. And BC was awful last year defensively. They were awful offensively. They ranked in the 80s in both. They gave up almost 30 points per game. People are going to get on BC here. One of the reasons this number has dropped is public's backing BC because we're getting more than 2 touchdowns. We saw Florida State. Florida State's not a bad team. Florida State can still win the ACC. I think Florida State skull draft.
No, they can't. No. Time out. I'm going to stop you. No, they can't.
So let me ask
the winner of the ACC plays this Saturday, right?
Let me ask you this: if they lose to Florida,
you know what? They can lose to Florida. They can lose to Florida, and it still will not be as bad of a loss as Florida State to Georgia Tech.
Okay,
and
but I just want to ask you if they lose to Florida.
But it'll also depend on what Florida does the rest of the season.
Okay, but if Florida beats Miami and Clemson gets curb stomped by Georgia, then you got to reevaluate. And I just think that we're going to be back to square one possibly after this week. I love Florida State in this spot. I think it is a great spot.
I do.
Yeah, standalone game. I think you're getting a lot of value based on one game over in Dublin. The only thing that scares me about Florida State, how acclimated are they coming back from Europe to coming back and settling in?
The only thing that actually worries me at all about Florida State in this spot is north of 14. Like, I don't want to lay more than 2 touchdowns. So I may put him. I know a lot of people talk about, a lot of morons who think they're sharp. They found a pencil, put in a sharpener, and all of a sudden they call themselves sharp. Those guys, like those nerds on Twitter, searching for EV. And listen, I would tease Florida State down just to get them under that 15 and a half, rather than playing anything north of 14, because I do think Florida State can and will win this game by 2 touchdowns plus. I do. But I just feel a lot more comfortable with this line under the 2 touchdown mark. So maybe a 2 touchdown, a 2-team teaser, FSU, Penn State.
I think under 2 touchdowns, ski mask and gun, you were robbing here. I think it is way too easy. I think much like you love UCLA, I think this is kind of the Florida State. I think you're up 21-24 at half. You never sweat this game. I don't think there's any opportunity for a backdoor cover. I think Bill O'Brien is trying to figure this thing out. I don't think he's got a roster yet. And I still think Florida State's a really good team, not a great team. I think they're like a 9-win team.
No, they're definitely going to outclass BC. And actually, the reason why I would actually consider Florida State in this spot is only because they come off of that loss, right? Like, I wouldn't even look at Florida State in this spot. I would not look at the Noles laying two touchdowns or north of, except for the simple fact that they're coming off of that loss, right? Them coming off that loss, for me, makes this a get-right spot. Makes this a spot that I want to back the Noles. I want to at least look to the Noles. I want some sort of investment on the Noles in this spot. I'm not going to lay the 15, but I am going to look for a spot. Lance already locked in. That's it. You know what? He's going to die on that hill. 15. That's it. Lance loves the Noles in this spot. It's his favorite game. My best bet of the week on this show is going to be UCLA, and we're just going to call it now. Lance's best bet on the show is going to be Florida State on Monday. But guys, make sure you get to YLose. That's the letter Y, LOSE.com. Free picks, stats, trends, scores, odds, and more, all on YLose.com. You want to check out Lance, make sure you get to YLose.com/Lance. Lance is going to have college football going all season long. No better option when it comes to college football. I don't care what anybody says. There's no better college football handicapper than Lance Taylor. Now, as of next week, we're going to have special appearances by everybody's cult favorite, Rick Bowe, the coach, old man Rick Bowe. We're also going to have appearances by the prop master, Luke Shuey. So it's going to be actually a great show moving forward. We're going to add more and more to this show as we go. Lance and I will be here pretty much every week. I'll be drinking only because it's Thursday night.
Well, hey, I was drinking before we got on. I only had a couple of IPAs, but I will bring my bourbon next time. I'll be right there.
I'm just going to have to send you a nice little ceramic bottle of Azul so we could just be, you know how it is, Lance.
Hey, that I will just save it and savor it for our
I'm going to forgive you for the USC pick. I'm just going to forgive you now. You can tell me next week about how I was right. LSU smacked the shit out of them. But as long as there's 70-plus points scored in that game, all good. All right, guys. This has been Player Performance College Football Week 1. I am J.A. Cavalier, joined every week by Lance Taylor. We're going to see you guys back here next week for the entire team over at YLose.com. Remember to bet with your heads, not above it. Make sure you get to YLose.com. That's the letter Y, LOSE.com. And if you're still watching this fucking show, first off, what the fuck's wrong with you? But second off, make sure you smash the like button. Thumbs up. That's big thumbs up. And subscribe to the channel. Listen, we have a ton of shit coming your way this season. Lance and I are going to be here every week for the college football version of Player Performance. I'll be here with Junior Brown for the NFL show. Coach Rick Bowe dropping the quick picks with Coach Rick every week. We're going to have a prop show starting. NHL with Bernsey, my man, and Les Victory starting here in a couple of weeks. That's the NHL show. So a ton of shit happening here on YLose. Guys, we love to do it. We love to do it for the community. I know we have a lot of fun with this shit, but more important than anything else is that we're here for you guys. We love the community. We love doing it. We love putting in the time. We love putting in the work, and we're going to continue to do so. But until next week, he's Lance Taylor. I'm your favorite capper's favorite capper, J.A. Cavalier. See you guys back here next week.
3-point spread winners posted daily on YLose.com. That's the letter Y, LOSE.com.